The Shape shakes his head in a new release from NECA Toys. Here's your look at the NECA Halloween Head Knockers Michael Myers. It's been 40 years since Laurie Strode survived a vicious attack from crazed killer Michael Myers on Halloween night. She now faces a terrifying showdown when Michael returns to Haddonfield, Illinois. But this time, Laurie is ready for him. The very first thing we're going to do, muchachos of mine, is we're going to figure out how tall the head knockers of Michael Myers stands. So for that, I'm going to use this trusty tape measure of mine, which used to be actually quite readily available. Since then, it seems this tape measure just dropped off the face of this earth. Nonetheless, though, according to the Ultrameasotron 5000, a name I haven't used in the longest of times, the head knocker of Michael Myers stands 8.8 inches in height. How does that translate? Yells someone in the back of the crowd. You didn't have to yell so loudly, sir. You could simply have just put up your hand. I would have answered your question accordingly. He asks, though, in centimeters, I'm more than happy to oblige. Loud person. 22.4 centimeters tall is the new Head Knockers release of Michael Myers from Halloween. I'd like to send out a big thank you to the folks over at NECA Toys who were nice enough to provide this sample that we're having a look at today. We can first start where we normally seem to get a gander at first in these reviews, and that seems to be the base. I always like to start at the base and give you something to look forward to as we move our way up the head knocker here. But what we can start with, though, is like the grassy base, the terrain in which Michael is standing atop of. He stands accordingly in between like two tombstones, which in a real world cemetery would not even work. I don't know how the two could overlap one another like this. I feel like this one could easily have just been simply left off, but it does give an added additional opportunity for NECA to showcase some of their sculpting skills. That's a lot of S's. Whoa, boy, that was a lot of S's. Done into the actual stonework of the tombstones. You can get a gander at that. And of course, the main one, the one that probably will grab your attention the first, is the one that says Judith Myers. Our beloved daughter, Judith Myers, born November 10th. You can actually see that right there, November 10th, 1947, and died October 31st, 1963. In front of that, we've got ourselves the new decoed jack-o'-lantern from the new Halloween film, done with hearts, inverted heart for the nose, and right side up regular hearts for the eyes. The pumpkin is done with a nice dry brushing of additional browns to it to bring out some of those little details done to the actual little indentations. You know how it goes up and down on a pumpkin, those little bumps. Well, they showcase rather nicely, though, when you add that additional paint wash to it. The grass is a combination of what seems probably like the main base color, which is this kind of brown color, and then they painted on top of it the green so that you can see all the grass then stands out as a result of that. Michael's shoes on the bottom down there really only kept to one single color of the black, and then we can work our way, of course, all the way up. Way up. He's got his boiler done in blue. Michael is sporting a rather sharp knife. There it is right there. Luckily for us, Michael has not started to make use of the knife. You can kind of see that as the dead giveaway. I see what I just did there. As the fact that the knife itself doesn't have any sprinklings and splatterings of blood. It's a rather clean knife, so maybe Michael is just starting his trick-or-treating from door to door. I probably wouldn't be answering the door if a gentleman this size wearing this mask would be knocking or ringing my doorstep or my doorbell. I probably would be not answering the door at all. As for Michael's head, this is a depiction, of course, from the new Halloween 2018 mask. And it goes accordingly with that the mask itself is a little bit more aged. The thing about it, though, is this is a bobblehead. These are all hand-painted, and from the standpoint of painting, I think they've done a really good job on the paint. Like, the boiler itself has a two-tone effect of a dark blue and a lighter blue mixed. As a result of it, the natural wrinkles that would form when pants get creased and move with the movement, of course, of the body. They've kind of painted those areas accordingly, so it does have like a natural coloring to it. The mask is also a nice touch. I will say, though, I don't know if it's just specifically mine, but it does seem, and I get the idea that this is, of course, a head knocker, but it does seem like Michael's head sits a little too high up on his neck. Where you're looking at it, let's just tip it up so you guys can actually see it. There's how it's been glued in place. The spring is as far down as it can go, and I probably would have maybe lowered the neck a little bit. Or if there is the means, this is of course a bobblehead, I suppose you could kind of constrict the spring. This would be a very suggested no-no on my part. Even though I would consider doing it, I mean, being that these are very fragile pieces. These are not made by in plastic at all. I believe they're made actually of resin. Resin is not something you want to start playing around with and getting too crazy with. Sure, pushing down the spring may actually reduce, his neck by just a little bit. But in the trade-off of that, I don't want to jeopardize breaking the head or the neck or even the hand here, just simply because I want to lower the neck. It does seem like it's a little sitting high for me, but depending on how you display it on the desk, like if you put it on a desk just like that, and you look at it from a distance, you step back and you kind of just examine it, kind of just maybe eating a sandwich and looking at it. It doesn't look all that terrible. I mean, it does look higher, yes, but you have to kind of also understand that it's a bobblehead, and because it's a bobblehead, it has to have enough clearance for a spring. Could it be a little bit lower? Yeah, maybe just a tad bit lower. But other than that, that's about the only thing I would probably have tried to change on this. I would not even, again, risk the idea of trying to do that myself. The last thing I certainly would not want to do is break such a exquisite looking piece. What a fantastic looking head portrait. Now the thing about it though is they've sculpted in the eyes. As you can see though, I don't know, intentionally, deliberately, they've left the eyes in the same black color as the rest of his mask, or the rest of the recessed socket areas of his eyes there are all the same black color. You could argue the point that the eyes should have been colored. I would almost counter-argue that point, that I personally don't like seeing Michael Myers' eyes. I like the black areas of his eyes kind of being like doll's eyes, staring, or not quite even staring at you, but certainly his face looking right at you. I don't like visible eyes. The only exception to that rule is the H2O, the Halloween Michael Myers from Halloween H2O, which I actually quite liked seeing his eyes. Every other rendition of Michael Myers keep his eyes completely pitch black, and this one being no exception. You can see how the mask has aged, this being from the original Halloween mask, based, of course, in the film. It's not the real original mask, but it's their idea of what the mask could look like with years and time working against it. It's deteriorated. It's, of course, showing a little bit more of its age, and it's a decent mask. The hair very much looks like, I feel, the original Halloween 1 mask. It's not as unkept, barely holding on to itself like it actually does in the film. In a way, like, this bobblehead kind of has a bit the H2O, or part of the original Halloween Michael Myers mask and the 2018 Michael Myers mask, sort of kind of marrying together, giving us a kind of a combination of the two. The hair feels very much like Halloween 1. The mask, of course, feels very much like Halloween 2018. Again, a really nice looking piece. As you could guess it, it's a bobblehead. Again, you don't want to be too, crazy with this. I would not consider the idea, for example, of putting this in your car. Sometimes in the past, I've mentioned that you could take these bobbleheads or the body knockers, which would be the opposite version of those, and put them in your cars so that you can actually have Michael bobbing along with you while maybe playing the radio driving down the street. This being a more fragile piece, I think this is definitely something that you would want to showcase in your collection, but you certainly wouldn't want to get too, like I said, playful with it like you would normally with the other plastic bobbleheads on the market. This is more of a higher end collectible piece, and like all the head knockers in the past that we've looked at, NECA really knocked this one out of the park with a really cool rendition of the 2018 Michael Myers. Now, I enjoyed the 2018 Halloween, but I gotta admit, I didn't love it. If I was to come up with a list of my favorite Halloweens, a top 5 list of both my favorite Halloweens and my favorite looks for Michael Myers, I gotta admit, I don't think the 2018 film would make either list. For the film itself, and of course the look of Myers. I personally like the idea that Michael Myers looked immortal. Based on his mask, you could never really determine how old he was. Sure, you could sit down with a pen and piece of paper and calculate out, do the math if you will, and date back for his first appearance and kind of work from there to come up with Michael Myers' age. But the 2018 film straight out tells you what Michael Myers' age is, and it reflects that in the more decayed look that he has in his mask. And personally, that was the one thing that kind of soured the film a bit for me. I don't want to have a senior citizen Michael Myers running around, well, walking very fastly paced, but walking around the streets of Haddonfield. That, for me, was a bit of the, not the deal breaker, but sort of one of the things that detracts a bit from the film. Some people like the idea that there's a more old-aged Michael Myers, and of course the omitting completely that he is tied to Laurie Strode, and even the inclusion of the other Halloween films all sort of amounted to 2018 Halloween film being, as I said, enjoyable, but probably not one I'm going to watch every single year, or maybe I'll alternate it. Every other year I'll eventually pop in a 2018 version of Halloween and I'll watch that one. Didn't watch it this year, and maybe I might end up watching it this year's Halloween, I don't know. Either way though, the one thing that was good that came with the Halloween 2018 film was new merchandise from the folks over at NECA Toys. NECA has really supported, I guess, a licensing that they were able to actually acquire for the Halloween, because 2018 we saw ourselves an ultimate version of Michael Myers, we saw ourselves a quarter scale version of Michael Myers, and of course we're seeing ourselves here the Head Knockers version of Michael Myers, which I guess you could look at and just sort of blanket slate it and just consider it more Halloween Michael Myers than anything else. Doesn't have to necessarily be specific to 2018, though the questionable wrinkles on Michael Myers' mask would certainly dictate that this is 2018 more than anything else, but this is just an all-around great looking bobblehead of Michael Myers. Calling it a bobblehead, I feel in a way sort of dismisses the quality and care that they put into these pieces. They call them head knockers. And really, that's not something you want to be doing a whole lot with these. These are resin pieces and hand painted. So the idea of knocking their heads is probably the last thing you want to be doing. You can do it, but just do it at a very soft pace. You don't want to be knocking this one around for fear that you could potentially break the resin in his mask, in his neck, or in the knife that he's wielding in his hand. I like this one quite a lot. Sure, the head is a little higher than I would have hoped. I suppose, again, I could try to push the head a little bit lower on this piece. But for the risk of breaking the resin that this piece is comprised of, I'm not going to take my risks with that. Instead, I'll just enjoy for the fact that it's a nice looking rendition of Michael Myers as a head knocker and an exquisite looking piece that you can add to your collection. Did you manage to pick up this one for yourself? Let me know down below, or based on the video that you guys have just finished watching, what do you guys think of the new Head Knockers release of the 2018 Halloween Michael Myers? Again, a big thank you to the folks over at NECA Toys who were very nice enough to provide this sample that we looked at in this review. If you guys are new to this channel or long-time viewers and you never got around to it, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below right now so that when new videos, new NECA reviews are coming soon to this channel, you don't have to keep your peepers peeled. It's going to be right very nicely presented in front of you, like a very fancy meal breakfast that you get at a bed and breakfast locale. It's going to be nicely presented in front of you, but make sure you hit that bell notification to stay tuned so that when new videos are coming on here, you'll get those notifications. Stay tuned as well, my friends and muchachos, because there's going to be a whole lot of NECA reviews coming your way. So again, you could keep your peepers peeled, but the whole point of it is making sure you hit that subscribe button down below so that you should get the notification when new stuff is coming your way. As always, guys, though, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.